everyone, we hope you're enjoying the Developer Marketing Summit so far. Just before we jump into the next session, we are so excited to be launching the Developer Marketing Alliance as its own community. So keep your eyes peeled for the link to our new Slack community in the comments, where we'll be carrying on the discussion of all things developer marketing after the summit. Join to connect with peers, ask questions, get access to fresh content, hear about upcoming events like this one, and discover new opportunities. Also, don't forget you can re-watch these amazing sessions whenever you want with on-demand access. All you need to do is sign up for an Access All Areas Pass or PMA Pro membership. With a PMA Pro membership, you'll also get footage from past events, exclusive content, templates, frameworks to help you excel in your role, plus so much more. But for now, back to the Developer Marketing Summit. Hey everyone, I hope you've all had a great day at the Developer Marketing Summit so far. Our industry leaders have had some valuable insight to share. So with that in mind, please welcome Abhishek Ratner, Head of AI and ML Developer Marketing at Google, Karen Nigham, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Palo Alto Networks and ex-Microsoft, and Avery Wong, Product Marketing Manager of Developer Platform and Experience at LinkedIn.
Thanks, Beth. Welcome everyone to this fireside chat on running platform marketing programs at enterprise scale. I'm Avery Wong, PMM on the LinkedIn Marketing Developer Platform, and I'm here with Abhishek Ratna and Karen Nigham. We're going to be sharing experience and insights on scaling developer outreach and engagement programs at some of the largest tech brands across the world. For a quick intro, we'd love to learn about you and how you landed in developer marketing. Abhishek, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, thank you, Avery, and super excited to be here. As you mentioned, I head developer marketing programs at Google. I've been a product marketer and a marketer for over a decade, but once I landed in developer marketing at Microsoft, I fell in love with it, and I've been a developer marketer ever since. Karan?
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. First of all, I've not had a chance to engage with this community a lot in the past, but looking forward to changing that. And Avery, to your question, I stumbled into developer marketing during my time at Microsoft, and I absolutely fell in love with it right away. So majority of my time at Microsoft was focused a lot more in some sort of platform marketing role. And then now currently I'm at Palo Alto Networks and looking forward to engaging here.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's get into some of the good stuff. So to ease us into discussion, let's start with what is platform marketing? How would you describe it, and how is it different than standard product marketing? I'll pass it to you, Abhishek.
Yeah, that's a great question, Avery. So my super simple description here is that great product marketing wins customers, but great platform marketing wins partners. Think iPhone in the iTunes Store, Android in the Play Store, Slack and its marketplace, Salesforce and App Exchange. These products are immensely more valuable because of the ecosystems their app developers created for them. These products build fantastic opportunities for developers to co-create on their platforms and have seen immense success come out of that investment. Platform marketing lets brands build relationships of trust and mutual value with developers. These partners, not developers, need to be educated on the viability and financial opportunity of your platform. They need guidance and insights on how their customers, that is your customers, are most likely to engage. And they desire a development experience and APIs that simplify their path to value. So these are, in my mind, the challenges that a platform marketer faces. Love to hear from you, Karan.
Yeah, I think absolutely agree with everything you said. I'll just add a few more points from my experience. If you just look at the very fundamentals of marketing, the basic question to answer is who's the customer and what are you actually in the business of selling? So in product marketing, the end user is most of the times it's a consumer or an enterprise buyer, depending on B2C or B2B. But for developer marketing or platform marketing, you're essentially, targeting a very different audience, which is a developer or a creator. So the benefits, the tone, the messaging, everything has to be, tweaked to that completely different audience altogether. I also just think, product marketing can be an inside out view, whereas an platform marketing role is a very outside in view. And what I mean essentially by that is, in product marketing space, you tend to focus on explaining the features, the capabilities of a product, but that's an inside out view of the world. But on an outside in view, essentially, you're trying to explain the value of the platform, the reach, the stickiness, and the ease of deployment. So the way you approach the conversation tends to have, come from outside in, from what the context is outside, what is the world looking to develop, and then how is your platform enabling that development. On the product marketing side, we have the luxury of being more playful, more emotive, whereas in developer marketing, platform marketing, I've noticed the conversations tend to be a lot more rational. You have to focus on, how resource intensive the development process is, what's the ROI, what are the joint go-to-market opportunities. So it's a very rational conversation majority of the times. And then, because developers are already playing around and researching some of the things like, technology on their own, so much of the value that you can provide is by giving them early access to roadmap, beta codes, etc., which you may or may not do in typical product marketing role. So those are some of the fundamental differences. I've personally been in love with this statement from Bill Gates about platforms and what they are. And I would love to just share that, which is, a platform is when the economic value of everyone that develops on it is higher than the economic value that the company gets out of it. And I think that in itself justifies the mentality with which marketing people have to approach it. You have to be in the business of explaining what is the economic sense of investing time and energy on a particular platform.
Thanks for sharing. I love that wording that you both used, that platform marketing wins partners and it's an outside in view. That really resonates and makes it just so clear, that distinction. I think a lot of what you mentioned is very on theme to what I've been hearing in today's sessions around developers want to innovate, they want to learn. So how do you create a platform that makes it easy for them? I'm curious, from your experiences, do you think the marketing team needs to be structured differently for platform marketing versus product marketing as a result of this?
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good point. And because of what we also heard today, because of the way developer marketing varies from standard product marketing, the developer marketer has to wear slightly different hats and she has to adjust to new realities. I would say, for one, there's a lot more, there's a lot of need for structuring around community work, evangelism, and accommodating developer style activities like hackathons in your go-to-market motions. Two, developers are highly tuned to feedback and reviews from their peers. And so this is one of the challenges marketers face, that developers would rather listen to their own versus to a marketer. And marketers need to think about actively building feedback loops into the product development roadmap, into support plans. That makes so there's a lot more customer advocacy, a lot more customer listening, and a lot more feedback work that needs to be a part of a developer or a platform marketer's day-to-day. How about you, Karan? I'm curious to hear about your experience.
Yeah, I mean, plus one to everything you said. I think the value of community is absolutely paramount when it comes to platform marketing. One of the difference I'll just call out in terms of how you structure your teams, your resources, your efforts, is there is a very tangible need of things like documentation, clarity on tooling, simulations which can be used for hands-on experience by developers. So just the kind of people you hire, the kind of structure you provide to your team has to take all of that into account, which may or may not be the case in a typical product marketing role. Of course, developers love innovation and storytelling, but they also deeply care about the efficiency of development and solving problems. So some of those, the kind of people you hire need to help with that efficiency as well.
Since we're here to talk about scale, how have you seen platform marketing change as businesses grow and scale?
Yeah, I mean, I can kick it off. You know, I had the distinct pleasure of joining Microsoft Teams when it was a rather small project within Microsoft. And by the time I left, the product was being used by 250 million monthly active users, etc. So I had a chance to see firsthand the scaled approach of that business. And there are a few critical things that I noticed during that time where the product evolved from just being the small platform to a large scale platform. The first one essentially was, you move from your conversations and your messaging being purely focused on just innovation to a real conversation around monetization. The kind of people you hire, the kind of stuff you do has to focus not just on technical aspects, but really the business aspects of this platform. More and more developers will look for answers to questions as, how easy is it to develop? How do you raise awareness for third-party apps on your platform? How do you reduce the friction of adoption? So you have to start wearing the business hat versus just the technical hat. Storefront and distribution becomes really important with scale. More and more businesses, think about companies like Shopify, Stripe, Spotify even, they all started with these just, payment app or a music app, and now they're like pure platform plays. And the biggest change they've had to make is to start thinking about distribution versus just being a singular app. As you scale, you really need to start also thinking about developer marketing, platform marketing from a lens of integrated marketing. What is your digital marketing strategy? How are you investing in SEMs, SEOs to provide that scale? So again, as a marketing team, as a marketing person, you have to evolve your thinking, your skill sets to match that. And then lastly, I'll say, I think with scale, customer experience actually becomes a real challenge. Just think about this. If you take an Uber and you have a bad experience, that bad experience may be because of the driver involved, but it also reflects on the platform that is Uber. So as platforms evolve, the customer experience becomes tough to control and manage because you're relying on third-party partners. But somewhere the customers hold you responsible, accountable for that. So it may not be your mistake, but it's still your problem, and you have to take that into account. Abhishek, interested to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Karan. I'd echo your point, especially the one around, I saw a lot of resonance in the one around, how smaller and early stage orgs tend to lean more heavily on evangelism and more speed to market, more tactical approaches. But with larger orgs, there is a natural evolution to having a more balanced portfolio of evangelism and structured marketing programs. Smaller businesses just are wired for speed to market. As the business scales, we start noticing that PMM's priorities change. As the product grows and starts adding more functionality, as a PMM, you may need to prioritize certain APIs or SDKs over others. You may need to present how your marketing plan aligns with the portfolio focus and OKRs of your larger parent marketing org, who's often focused on very different goals. So that getting those resources and alignment in place is an art and a skill in itself, which can often overshadow the day-to-day marketing work that you might be more tuned to in smaller orgs. On the plus side, you also have more chances to participate in brand marketing to convey your brand's purpose and values. I found engineering or product teams at larger orgs very, very dialed in to the culture and company values. They actively participate in more what we call marketing conversations around brand, values, perception. And I've actually had some really, really good ideas come out of my product and engineering counterparts for branding. So those are some of the differences I've noticed.
As PMMs, I think we tend to focus on lower of the funnel and engagement and conversion. But what do you think about brand marketing? Do you think developers care about the brand? And how has that changed in some of the companies you've been at?
Yeah, I can take that. I think there is this deep notion that travels around developer marketing world, which is developers don't care about marketing. But at least in my experience, I've not found that to be completely true. Because I think most developers, or in fact, developers who really think about their app development process as a business, really truly want to partner with companies that have a very clear set of values and mission. I think everyone's looking to be a part of a higher purpose in some way or form. If you just look at some of the most successful companies like Google, Microsoft, AWS, Twilio, most of them are very largely mission-driven companies, and that's a core strength of theirs. If you just look at some of the recent engagement models, like think about the Apple versus Facebook data sharing issue that everyone's talking about. Apple as a platform has decided to take a stance, and that's stemming from their brand value. And that's just a great example of how a platform can really change the behavior, the needed user engagement in a righteous way using their power as a brand. At my time at Microsoft, Microsoft has a massive developer ecosystem. And I really noticed some great examples of how the company would create these hackathon opportunities where they would get all the developers together and solve things like inclusion, accessibility, providing higher access to minorities and not just individual apps. So I do think that companies that have strong sense of values and brand tend to resonate better with developers.
That makes a lot of sense. I think social responsibility and impact for brands, consumers, and even developers is becoming increasingly important. So pivoting a little bit into kind of becoming a business leader as marketers, I think we want to up-level ourselves and not just be thought of as that communicator or that marketer, but as a business leader. How do you think marketers can establish the right business metrics for a platform business?
That's a great point, Avery. I think it's absolutely crucial for marketers to master their metrics, regardless of the size of the organization, to have a seat at the table, so to speak. I've seen different organizations adopt different metrics to align with their culture, to align with their goals. So while a one-size-fits-all approach may not work, I take a stab at kind of proposing a general broad categorization of metrics. And I've typically seen metrics fall into one of three broad themes. One of them would be around the value to the business or direct contribution either to the top line or bottom line. This could be things like revenue metrics or pipeline coming from the ecosystem of developers. The second broad category of metrics are around the health and engagement of the ecosystem. So things like number of active developers, number of apps published to your platform, open source contributions, all ladder pretty nicely in this theme. And the third pillar of metrics would be around satisfaction. I've seen almost all organizations track some form of developer satisfaction. This could be CSAT scores or like other qualitative means or surveys or literally verbatim quotes from developers. And these kind of, especially the satisfaction metrics, tend to be even more important in platforms which create open source tools for their developers. That's how I would broadly categorize it. Yeah, my point. I'm kind of curious also to see other points of view.
I think everything you said just resonates a lot with me. I do think that because majority of the engagement content for developer community tend to be self-serve and online, marketers have a unique opportunity to be very, very business driven. In fact, some of the best people I've had a chance to work with in this space are people who have a very clear and very strong sense of the daily, weekly, monthly health of the development process. And to your point, Abhishek, I think just having a sense of what are the metrics for raising awareness amongst developers, whether it could be developer sign up or number of active developers, also just tracking the education, if you have courses, trainings, etc. for developers, how many of them are taking those courses, how many of them are not taking it, or they're dropping off somewhere in between the content. Having a clear sense of that helps you curate a very good set of content that is actually useful. And then lastly, I think the development cycle itself, if you're giving away some free APIs for developers to play around with, how many of them are using it? Are they dropping off somewhere? Where is the drop off happening? How many apps are actually getting published? I think just having a clear sense of the development cycle end to end is a good business practice anyway.
That's great insight about the development cycle. I think as PMMs, it's so important to have that insight to know where the blockers are, where the opportunities are that really can help make a difference for your business. Moving into some of the tactics that you use and learn from, what is one campaign or program that was successful, and what did you learn, and do you have any advice for the audience? Abhishek, want to go first?
Sure, this is such a fun topic. So I'd kind of start with the Google mantra for marketing, and I found this to hold true in so many situations. So at Google, there's a saying, which is know the user, know the magic, connect the two. Knowing the user means understanding the people whose lives you're touching with your products. Knowing the magic means truly understanding your product. PMMs are actually expected to have a very strong handle on their products and be active proponents of removing complexity and barriers to adoption of your products. And connecting the two means telling the product story in a way that is relevant, useful, and respectful to your users. So hopefully this example illustrates the approach. When I was with Windows Developer Marketing, our business was closely tied to the Windows Store organization. As dev marketers, we needed to help app developers overcome barriers and publish apps to the store easily. We had more than 1 million developers sign up for accounts, but only a few thousand ever published an app. Worse still, we had no qualitative nor quantitative data about what these blockers were or where were the developers held up. So to understand users, I innovated a little. First, I started by collecting qualitative feedback and hypotheses from our developer support team and our dev evangelists. And then I borrowed this idea, which is well known to e-commerce and retail marketers, called recency frequency monetization analysis. Long story short, the key finding from this analysis was that a majority of successful developers published their first app within 30 days of creating their accounts. If they did not publish an app within the first 30 days, there was a very slim chance that they were ever going to publish. So this was my aha moment, and it told me that an onboarding campaign would be most valuable. I evangelized the idea and sought feedback from other PMMs, evangelists, and support reps on our team. And they gave me a ton of valuable ideas for campaign themes and content. There were a lot of great ideas. So the next fun challenge was packaging all this up. And to make this content helpful, I would kind of echo what Karan shared a little earlier, this notion of the developer lifecycle, of knowing the stages in their lifecycle. And that idea resonated with me back then. And I built a campaign experience across the landing page and across nurtured emails where we packaged content by where a developer might be in their journey to publishing their first app. So the results we saw were very heartening. We saw 25% growth in per developer productivity. They were publishing 25% more apps. The emails and landing pages had 6x the engagement rates of our baselines. And to give absolute numbers, some of these emails had open rates in excess of 55%, click-through rates in excess of 17%, which are phenomenal metrics for email marketing in general. And most strikingly, we saw a 550% increase in the revenue developers generated after they'd gone through this training and onboarding versus if they're not. So the mantra holds true. I mean, it's just a validation. And to repeat, I'd say know the user, know the magic, connect the two. And I continue to use this approach today to building programs and campaigns.
I love that mantra. I want to put it on a t-shirt. I hope Google doesn't mind. So as PMMs, we know that it's so important to have trust between you and your R&D team. It's one of the closest relationships that you have. What advice do you have for marketers to earn the trust of their technical, non-marketing stakeholders? What is the value that they can bring to the table?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I think, as marketers, it's very easy to find ourselves in a situation where you're just asking the question of how do I get a seat at the table? But over time and with a ton of tough experiences, I've just come to know that instead of asking that question to others, the question you have to answer yourself is what is the unique value you're bringing to the table? In platform marketing, it's particularly relevant because you're working with people who are technically very adept. Either it's your engineering stakeholders or your customers, which are developers. So the unique value you can bring to the table is the deeper understanding of business from an end-to-end perspective. If you can be the person who's bringing insights to Abhishek's point of, your developer journey, of tracking developer journey, drop-off rates, what's not working, why is it not working, what are the best practices from other companies in the industry, what are the A/B experiments you want to run, which could probably, increase the attraction of developers or education of developers. If you can become that person, I think you will automatically get the respect and the seat at the table that you're looking for. A couple of other things that I've found effective, at least in my experience, were, if you can become the person who's in contact or is helping the developers, the business development person or the marketing person on the developer side, figure out the go-to-market approach. If you can be that individual, I think that's a unique value you can bring to the table on what kind of marketing investments, what channels, what markets. I think that's something that we bring to the table very uniquely. And then lastly, just becoming a voice of customer. Most developers I've had a chance to engage with are actively looking for examples, very tangible examples of how someone else has used your platform to develop an application or a solution. So if you can bring, customer case studies of, how much time did it take? What did they develop? What problem were they trying to solve? How did they go about the technical deployment? I think those tangible, information from examples of others can be really, really useful. So those are some of the things that I think we are well structured and set up to do uniquely.
Those are some great tips. I know the more, also from my experience, like the more that I can lend a voice to the developer, to my technical stakeholders, the more trust that I can get with them. And that's really helped me earn credibility when I first joined my team. Just to start to wrap this up, how have you found any innovative ways to scale voice of developer and your thought leadership?
Yeah, I think Karan kind of covered the voice of the developer part very well. I mean, those are great tactics to follow. With thought leadership, I just found this tidbit super interesting. I think good platform brands engage developers with how to build on their platform, and they remove those barriers and friction. But great platform marketing brands engage developers with these stories of why and how they developed their products the way they did. Meaning, some examples that I absolutely love in this space are the Engineering at Netflix blog, where developers are led into the journey of Netflix's approach to problem solving and building our products. The Uber Dev blog, obviously the Google Developer blog, and then the Atlassian blog. There are lots of great examples out there.
Thanks. I'm going to be subscribing to more blogs now. Thanks for sharing your insights. We have some questions. The first one is, as the first PMM at my company, how can I get stakeholder buy-in to grow my team? It's a tricky one.
Abhishek, you want to have a thought?
Yeah, I'd almost say, I think what Karan said makes a lot of sense. Instead of thinking of how do you get at the seat at the table, what can you bring to the table? And what that means is the voice of the user and the data around the user. That's really, if you know your product, if you know your users, and you can speak, you can come from that space of solving the problems that your product and engineering teams care about, you notice that you have a lot easier time breaking into those conversations and getting alignment.
I think I'll just say, just building on what Abhishek you said, I think any time I've had to do any conversations around resourcing, which is a tangible conversation all of us have to do, the thing that I found the most useful and effective so far is if you're able to draw a picture of where you could be and where you are, and then not go into the resourcing conversation as I want this or I need this, but our business could be doing this if we had these XYZ resources, and let the management decide if that resourcing is a full-time employee or a contract. Don't get into those tactics right away, but painting that picture of what the business could be doing, I think, at least in my experience, has been the most effective way to have this conversation, because it's just a very subjective conversation anyways, many times. So yeah.
That makes sense. That's also how I've approached it, just painting a picture of what's possible. Yeah. And then using resources in order to execute, this is what's needed. Yeah. Great. We are at time, but just one last thing. I think if anyone has follow-up questions or didn't get to theirs, is how can they reach you?
People can reach me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I spend majority of my time and energy. So yeah, absolutely happy to connect.
+1.
Thanks for your time, Abhishek and Karan.
Thank you, Avery. Thank you, everyone.